Getting a better picture of how children are cared for in facilities like the ones run by Southwest Key is another challenge journalists and policymakers face. In a general sense, we wanted to understand some of the psychological effects children in these circumstances may experience. We got that insight from Andrea Romero, director of the Francis McClelland Institute for Children, Youth and Families. It does research in collaboration with the University of Arizona on childhood development. For what these immigrant children are experiencing right now, will they need therapy? Will they need some sort of guidance to help manage what they're seeing and experiencing?
Well, there have been many national scientific organizations that have put out statements this summer. One of the letters that was signed by a large group of psychological organizations asked for certain solutions to be considered. Not, of course, reunification of families, but also for there to be reparations made. And specifically, the kind of reparations they identified were social, emotional, and health services provided to the families after they reunify. In particular, not only providing services, but services that really are culturally attuned, trained staff that can speak the appropriate language, and people who really are familiar with the culture of the people that they're working with to provide the best possible kind of services to help them through that transition to coming back together as a family and dealing with any kind of negative after effects that the children or the parents may be having.
Is everyone on board with things like therapy? Culturally, it's not something that everyone does or everyone sees the value in.
I think in any culture, it's a little bit of a challenge to raise awareness about mental health issues in particular. Mental health issues, I think, across all cultures. There's some stigma associated with that, but in my work with Latinx populations, many families and children are really open to opportunities. Culturally, it's really valued to talk with somebody about your problems and to get advice. Sometimes families don't have access to those kind of resources because they don't have health insurance or it's just too costly even with health insurance. So I think providing that opportunity for the parents and the children to talk, whether it's one-on-one therapy sessions or group sessions, I think people will show up.
Based on what we're learning about the experience these children are coming from certain areas of Central America where families are being threatened or extorted and then separated, is any of this, being here in the United States, experiencing this right now, though there are separations, is any of this somewhat better than what they might be experiencing if families are staying home?
I think what's really difficult is this immediate experience of being separated and the kind of context we're hearing about in those detention centers where children are kept in areas where the lights are on 24 hours a day, where it's noisy 24 hours a day, they're sleeping on floors. That kind of experience of what we would call a toxic stressor, it's whatever experience they had before that, the stress is only going to be compounded in their immediate environment.
We often hear that children are resilient, but they will remember this regardless of how young they are?
Some of the younger ones, we know that there's some as young as 18 months old that have been separated from their parents. At that age, they may not have as clear memories as maybe a 4 or 5-year-old would. We do know that with those really young ones, the babies, the toddlers, they're in a moment of development where parent-child attachment is paramount for the development of their brain, their body, their socio-emotional development, and not having that kind of fundamental positive emotional bond at that early age is potentially really going to affect them in the long term in ways that they may not fully understand until they're quite a bit older.
Okay. Dr. Romero, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.